Jerry, do you want to do your portion first? You're muted.
I did that out of consideration, and then I forget to unmute myself. I had told the new CO that we probably wouldn't get to him before 7.
Okay.
And I'm not sure he's ready, so
Okay.
why don't we just...
Jerry, I'm here and I'm ready whenever you are. If you want me to go first this one.
Eric?
How's everybody doing?
That's fine with me.
Okay. Then we'll do the public safety part first, if that's okay.
There's an echo.
Yeah, it seems like.
Yeah, you should mute yourselves while other people are talking. If not, you'll get the feedback.
Yeah. Before we start, you folks will have to bear with me. It's my first time hosting a CB6 meeting, so I'm not sure of all the features that I'm going to need to operate here. John, you said everybody was muted. That might have been automatic, but you should be able to unmute yourself. Though it might be, I think, so for myself and CB6 members and any invited guests who are presenting have panelist status. I think everybody else probably does not, which is why you would be muted. But if you do have questions and you can't unmute yourself, please put them in the chat. I'll make sure we get to them. We're recording the meeting for posterity. If I actually would ask if there's a member of the committee who might not mind taking notes, because I think we'll need minutes as well. Somebody willing to and able to do that?
I can do it.
Thanks, Evan. I appreciate it. Just general top line would be fine because I can go back to the video and fill in any details. All right, Jerry, I'll turn it over to you and let you run the first part of the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. My name is Jerry Armour, and I'm chair of the Public Safety Committee. For some of you who have not been on the committee for a while, since we haven't met for a while. So that introduction is over with. Let me just start by saying about 2 months ago, Deputy Inspector Megan O'Malley was transferred to Manhattan North as their new commanding officer, which is for her a promotion in additional responsibility. Subsequent to that, or probably within an hour after that was announced, Captain Zelikov was announced as the new commanding officer of the 76th Precinct. Captain Zelikov had been an executive officer of the precinct about 2 years prior to his appointment as CO. He spent 4 months in the precinct as the XO, which in our case is very nice because he had a leg up on every other new CO that we've had coming into the precinct as a commanding officer. He knew something about the precinct. He knew where Red Hook was. He knew where Cobble Hill was, and he knew where Carroll Gardens was. He understood Court Street and Smith Street. He didn't have to learn it. He even knew where to get good coffee. So without further ado, Captain Zelikov, if you would like to tell the people a little bit about yourself and what it's like coming to the precinct, the floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you, Jerry, for the very kind words. I see some familiar names and faces in this meeting. Like Jerry said, I am Captain Vitaliy Zelikov. I'm coming here from the 70th Precinct, which covers Flatbush. Before that, I worked at Coney Island. Prior to that, I worked here in the 76th Precinct, covering Cobble Hill, Carroll Gardens, and Red Hook. I'm very happy to be back here. I am, like Jerry pointed out, I'm somewhat familiar with the community, and I really enjoyed my time here in the past, and I'm really happy to be back here. I've also worked in my past, and I have 16 years in this department. I've worked in Staten Island, I worked in Manhattan, Brooklyn North, East New York, Crown Heights. So I've been all over the place, but you know, I'm really, really glad to be back here. So I'm looking forward to working with everybody here, and the great partnership in the years coming. So thank you again, Jerry. Thank you, everyone.
Do we have any questions for the captain? I usually have a problem remembering to call inspectors because I meet them as captains. And for a moment, I nearly called Captain Zelikov an inspector, which would have been interesting. I'm sure he can't wait. Anyway,
Don't do that. That means he's leaving. You don't want that to happen,
You're
Jerry.
right. I'll stick around.
Okay, go okay.
Jerry,
Okay,
you can promote me
yeah.
up, just don't demote me down.
I can't hear them, but let me see what's up.
Okay, do we have any questions? If not, I'll turn it back to Eric. Eric, it's yours.
What's going on? Oh, now they back.
Sorry, I had a spinning beach ball there for a second. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Captain, for joining us. So we have a couple of transportation items on the agenda for this evening. Leroy, do you want to go first, or do you want to let the Red Hook folks go first? You're muted. My lip reading isn't so great.
Emily?
The Resilient Red Hook can go first.
Okay. So let me just pull up the agenda.
Give it one more time.
So Alex, welcome. The first item on the agenda for transportation this evening is a request from Resilient Red Hook to the community board to endorse a resolution that they've put forth to delist Van Brunt Street from Bowne to Beard as a New York City truck route. So Alex, I will let you introduce yourself. I am letting you share your screen.
Okay.
That should be good to go. So whenever you want to bring that up, you can do that. But why don't you guys introduce yourselves and give us the background?
Don't show the screen quite yet. Okay. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Alex Washburn, and I'm the secretary of the Resilient Red Hook Committee and the chair of the land use subcommittee for that. I'm coming to you from Van Brunt Street in Red Hook. This is our office and home and community center, and right out the door is Van Brunt Street. So right here in Red Hook. And thanks again for having us here tonight. I'm here with Ezra Browich.
Hi, everyone.
And we're here to tell you a little bit about the issue of trucks on Van Brunt Street, which is pretty serious. And we've been bothered by this for quite a long time. I was actually just at the Red Hook Houses with Councilman Menchaca, who implored me to help in solving the problem of trucks on Van Brunt, which is really gotten to a breaking point with us. So that breaking point resulted in a resolution that our committee passed. And this is a resolution that asks to demap a portion of Van Brunt Street from the city's official truck route. And I'll show you more about that in a minute. I just want to emphasize, how thankful I am that there is this process and that there is this committee of the community board and so many concerned citizens here to listen to us tonight. We're very, very grateful for that from Red Hook, and we know that especially in this time, change happens from the ground up. Now, just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I used to work the top-down route. I used to be the city's chief urban designer at the Department of City Planning. Before that, I used to work for Senator Moynihan many, many years ago when I was the only architect on personal staff. So I've seen the world from that top-down attitude, and I've always wanted to fight against it. And over the course of my career, I've worked my way from the 63rd floor of the Chrysler Building to the ground floor of a row house in Red Hook, and this is where I like to be. And so this resolution that I'll present to you from my neighbors here in Red Hook addresses the topic of trucks on our main thoroughfare, Van Brunt Street. So maybe with that, I'll share the screen here. Okay, next. Takes a second. Yep. Okay. The city truck route is currently mapped in a way that includes Van Brunt Street as a shortcut to a more substantial route that works off of Hamilton Avenue. Hamilton Avenue is an 8-lane major thoroughfare, and it has through Delavan Street at the north and Bay Street at the south, 2 arms that come into Red Hook. We're a mixed-use community. We are residential, but we're also industrial. So I want to say up front, we have nothing against manufacturing and trucks. In fact, we think they are necessary to our neighborhood's continuing development and character. But we think that this mistake in mapping by City DOT has had a huge number of unintended consequences that allow, in fact, encourage trucks to use Van Brunt as a shortcut to the 2 arms coming off of Hamilton Avenue, Delavan and Bay Street, in accessing both our own manufacturing areas, but also in short-circuiting and allowing people to avoid traffic on Hamilton Avenue and come through our neighborhood. So what we want to do is take rid of that shortcut. So we've created a resolution, and that resolution has several points that it brings up. First of all, it points out that Van Brunt Street, it is our main civic thoroughfare in the neighborhood. The existing truck route is incompatible with those necessary community uses on Van Brunt Street, our B61 bus route, our bicycle infrastructure, our residences, community facilities, schools, churches, local businesses, all these things that are never meant to be mapped with truck routes are here. And what really scared us into action, and any of you all have been to Red Hook lately will see them going up, the last mile warehouses. They are coming. They are almost here. And when they arrive, the way they operate is that they will have 53-foot trucks coming in all night, and they will have panel trucks going out in the morning and coming back in the afternoon. It's going to be a 10-fold increase on the already considerable truck traffic that we have. I'll show you a few pictures here to illustrate some of the points in the resolution. Well, if you've been down to Van Brunt Street and seen these trucks on it, they cause confusion and delay. Any of you guys have, will understand what that means in a narrow street of Red Hook. They block the free flow of pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicle traffic. They shape the foundations of our neighborhood houses. This is something that unless you live in an area that is built on former islands and marshes, you can't quite understand what happens when a multi-ton truck going 35 miles an hour above the speed limit hits a sewer grate. That sewer grate has a physical connection to your house, and it transmits the full vibration of that truck, and it shakes our houses. We can't sleep at night, and our houses are coming apart. You can also see that having trucks like this endangers the safety of residents and kids. I have 5 kids here that I've raised on Van Brunt Street, and it's just an incompatible scale. Given that that this is a self-inflicted problem, that this is unnecessary to the effective movement of goods and services in our neighborhood. We believe that this is an unnecessary and redundant loop which encourages truck traffic through our neighborhood, and it is exacerbating both the harm to us and our houses physically through shaking, through breathing, through the particulate matter that comes out here, but also through noise. And I'm going to show you a little bit here about the noise that is out of the ordinary. It's extraordinary. Look at this is a table from the City Environmental Quality Review handbook that tells you what is an acceptable noise and gives you some baselines to help understand what volumes of noise are reflected in the way you measure noise, which is called decibels. So a jet taking off at 500 meters is 100 decibels. A freight train is 95 decibels. Now, when you get into a suburban area with medium density transportation, 40 to 50 decibels is what you can expect. And inside your house, the city says that, okay, 40 to 50 decibels, 45 decibels is actually kind of a maximum target noise to have inside your house. You know, so when I first saw this, I'm like, oh, wow, 100 decibels, a jet taking off, that's just twice what we're supposed to have as noise inside our house. But no. You got to realize this is something called a logarithmic scale. Every 10 points is a doubling of power, a doubling of intensity of noise, a doubling of the pressure on your eardrum. So to go from 45 decibels to 95 decibels, it's not just 50 decibels of change, it's a change in pressure of almost 40 times the difference. 40 times more pressure on your eardrum in that change in noise. Okay, that's the background. Now, this is pretty scientific stuff, so we felt we needed some help here in Red Hook, and we talked to this group called SONIC, Sounds of New York City. They're a group of professors at NYU's Center for Urban Science and Progress here in Brooklyn. Next. Their mission and their project involves noise monitoring on a city scale, and they use the latest stuff, machine learning technology, big data, but they couple it to citizen science, to you and me working with them to report and analyze and hopefully mitigate urban noise pollution. They've received a lot of funding from the National Science Foundation, and they have the full support of the city agencies. They are for real. They are an established and very important group. Next. Now here's a picture of one of their researchers, Charlie Midlars, Professor Charlie Midlars, coming to my house, in my gallery, and installing a noise sensor right there above my door with his graduate students. This noise sensor has given us a full year of noise data. And we have, through a camera that was recently attached last year, it has given us a corroboration of visual and sound so that we can understand where the noises are coming from. You have that video? Here's a video showing what we see. So there's a truck going by, seen through the camera, and there is a recording of the sound superimposed on it as it goes by. And you can see that at the peak, when that truck hits that sewer grate, we hit almost 100 decibels. We hit the jet engine at 500 meters. It is a shock of noise that is driving us crazy. Next. Now, if you plot this out in more scientific terms, this is called a violin graph. On the left is the ambient noise, in other words, the world without trucks. And there, the average decibels is about 60. You know, a good old New York City street. Like, you know, hey, Frankie, how you doing? That kind of noise. But the part on the right, that is when a truck passes. And you can see there, maximum decibels, 98.6 decibels, jet engine at 500 meters. This is a huge difference between what is ambient and what the trucks do. And that difference between these two blobs, that's what is killing us. Next. Yeah, this is, I just wanted to reference this city environmental quality review table. I'm an architect, so I work a lot with this sort of stuff too. And just to show you the marginally unacceptable noise differences, we are so far up over the scale, we are beyond the clearly unacceptable noise scale here. And it's not something that we're saying anecdotally. This is what's written in city environmental law. Next. So noise itself has a lot of detrimental impacts. Apart from driving us crazy, which is the sort of easy way of saying it, it has very specific impact on cognitive development for kids, on attention, memory, reading, and verbal skills. Why is this important? Well, these trucks go by PS15. This is where we're educating our kids. This truck route goes by our best school here. And the noise also, because of the pressure on your eardrum, it has a detrimental impact on your heart health, on your blood pressure. It causes your blood pressure to rise. And we have enough problems now, especially during a pandemic and the stress that we're going through. And today marks the anniversary of Hurricane Sandy. And we had our climate march today, that the last thing we need is outside trucks coming in and putting up our blood pressure. Next. So all these things that it does, decreasing working quality, increasing physical tension, increasing blood pressure, and all the changes that your body does, I'll leave that to the academics and to their studies about what this does. But as people here in Red Hook on the ground, this truck noise is just, it's unacceptable. It's just unacceptable to us, and it's unnecessary. So we would like action now. The studies are suggesting that the trucks causing damage show it now. We have data that proves it now, and we are worried that the last mile warehouses that are coming into operation are going to make the problem 10 times worse, and they will create a facts on the ground scenario which will allow government to avoid us, to stiff arm us. In fact, we are worried about the logical approach, which would be to say, let's do a truck study. Well, let's do a truck study. That's what the trucking companies want us to do, because they know that buys them time. It gives them time to change the facts on the ground and have trucks here both in the middle of the night and in the middle of the day. I'm all for traffic studies, but invoking them now as a solution is like Donald Trump saying, you'll get my taxes when the audit is completed, when the study is completed. What we're hoping for is action now. Suspend this segment of truck movement on Van Brunt right now. Let's find alternative routes that don't go through our residential cores, either Van Brunt Street or the houses. And then we can do a truck study. Well, we can't wait until that's over. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions, Jerry?
I'm not sure it's questions. Can everyone hear me? I think I unmuted myself. Yes.
We can hear you.
A couple things that I want to point out. I don't disagree with that maybe Van Brunt Street is not the ideal truck route. It's far from it. But the picture you showed where the tanker truck was turning onto Van Brunt Street, I think it said hazardous material or something, shows actually cars illegally parked on a corner that was daylighted to allow trucks to turn. And that truck was coming out of the industrial manufacturing part of Red Hook on the west side of Red Hook. So how is the truck going to get out? It can come in. Your suggestion to have it come in, I guess, down the other truck route on the east side of Red Hook and then come across, they can still use Van Brunt Street. In fact, they can, even if it's demapped, they can use Van Brunt Street because the truck regulations say that they can take, once they're off the truck route, the most direct route to where they have to be. That would be Van Brunt Street. So demapping it would not though I understand why you're saying it for health reasons, I don't think would get you the desired results. A couple more things. When you talked about PS15, PS15 is set significantly back from Van Brunt Street and separated by an open area of a schoolyard. So I'm not sure, and let me just add one other thing. The actual bike route in Van Brunt Street in Red Hook is not on Van Brunt Street. It's a shared route. The actual route is Imlay to Conover. Nobody uses it, I will grant that. I'm not sure that either Imlay to Conover or Van Brunt is good for bikes. One, because of traffic, and two, because of the condition of the streets or the cobblestones. So I find myself torn on this resolution because I'm not sure it would accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. The trucks will still come down Van Brunt Street, and they will do so legally, with or without a truck route, or an official truck route designation.
Well, may I respond?
Yep.
Okay, so the key to understand here, though, is that we're trying to create an open-jawed truck route rather than the Van Brunt portion, which creates a short circuit. So when you're saying like that hazardous materials truck, let's say it's trying to go to the future UPS site right now in the west of Red Hook as part of the remediation, which is, I'm guessing, might be one of its possible destinations. It would be able to access that site via either Ferris Street, and what we would ideally like is for it to access that site through the Port Authority property and the marine terminal entry on Hamilton. So that would be the western jaw. The eastern jaw is Bay Street. And the question is, can we remove the Van Brunt short circuit between those two, which would maintain the direct route from either of those western or eastern jaws?
Okay. There is an advantage to being a senior on the Transportation Committee and on the board. Community Board 6 has gone on record a great number of years ago trying to get the Port Authority to take Conover Street through the container port and open it up for trucks. That would be something that would make sense now to follow up on. We're still on record. It's never been withdrawn. Because of what you said, I just remembered that. And that would be a great way to, then there would be a substitute for Van Brunt and getting the trucks in and out.
Exactly. Exactly.
With UPS coming in and the other development on Conover and on Ferris that's going on, forgetting about the last mile warehouses over by IKEA and the private school, basic school. Follow up on that the community board put on record a great number of years ago. You guys would be something that would be very helpful. But right now, even taking it off the route, they would still be able to use it and it could not be enforced. So that I can't see what we would accomplish. And quite frankly, I don't see DOT sort of falling into line.
Well, okay, let me respond again.
The other thing is, I'm going to ask the chair. I'm a former chair. I don't know if we want to do cross conversation. Do we? And if we do, it's fine.
Jerry, I'll allow, I can recognize John, Alex, I'm happy to respond to that.
Okay. Well, I guess my response, and again, I appreciate your long perspective on this, and I think that's wonderful that CV6 is on record for the Port Authority access. What I would say is that given my early experience, I think we can be tremendously effective now with this bottom-up pressure combined with our top-down connections. The current head of DOT is Polly Trottenberg. She was my replacement at Senator Moynihan's office when I went to found the Penn Station Redevelopment Corporation. I know her. I can talk to her through Carlos, through others. We can put this pressure as long as we stand up as a community to say that it is bottom up. I think it all starts bottom up, but I am fully prepared, with all the resources I can bring to the table and others that I know to make sure that DOT does not ignore us, that the Port Authority does not ignore us. My biggest accomplishment when I created the Penn Station Foundation, I got the Port Authority to put in $80 million into that project, even though they kicked and screamed and fought to try to stay out of it. I'm definitely a veteran of fighting within government.
Thanks, Alex. I'm going to take some more questions. John Santor, if you want to go ahead.
Hi. I live in Sunset Park. John Santor here. I live in 56th Street. But I wanted to listen to the meeting because of the last mile trucking facilities, and I guess I'm trying to touch base on where people are at on this. I was planning on waiting until later in the meeting, but because it just got brought up, I guess what I'm most interested in right now is it seems like Mr. Washburn is implying that there's actually an existing violation of law regarding noise violation and noise levels, if I understood him correctly. So I just wanted to ask if the board, I am aware of the letter that Mike sent to DOT, but I'm just wondering if the board has any additional information pertaining to air quality or noise quality or anything else that is potentially being violated by the now four distribution centers in Red Hook, because I'm sure you've heard that 280 Richard Street is also going to be the site of an Amazon facility as well.
We do not at this time. To my knowledge, those are all as of right projects, and none of them have come before the board. So unfortunately, I'm going to need to stick to tonight's agenda, but that's certainly something we would be open to discussing in the future in greater detail.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Eric?
Yeah, Leroy, you want to go ahead?
Yes. As most of you know, I work for DOT, but right now I'm putting on my Red Hook resident hat. I live in Red Hook. I'm a member of the board. As Jerry, I've been around for a long time. So can we get the trucks off of Van Brunt Street? Would be the greatest thing we ever could accomplish. But I don't. No, I'm speaking as a Red Hook resident, not as a DOT rep. I want to make that clear. Okay. But I can honestly say I don't see that happening. I don't see us being able to just automatically take it off the truck route without having an alternative place to put it. And so I think the best course of action would be to try to get Conover Street or Imlay Street, and that would be going to the Port Authority and EDC and working from that perspective. And if we can get them to do that, to at least open their eyes to the idea of doing that, then I can see how we can move the truck route. But barring that, I don't see DOT taking it off the truck route without having an alternative for it.
Okay. Thank you, Leroy. Van?
Hey, thanks. So I'm a physician, so my feedback to you is going to be a bit different. I can't speak to the to the architecture points and the actual geography points, but a few pieces of feedback. So you talk about absolute noise levels, and I get why you reference that, and it makes sense giving comparisons. But your comparisons are all prolonged noise. The airline, obviously that's not as long, but a lot of the things you talk about are on the order of tens of seconds, if not minutes, if not hours. So you might want to tailor that a bit more, because if I understand correctly, what you're pointing out is a very short, loud sound, and so what the effects of those would be. And I don't know if you'll have medical professionals on it as you progress this further, but the moment you start saying you have evidence that it has health effects, even if I'm sympathetic to what you're saying, I immediately would push back and say, what evidence and where is it? And it kind of detracts from your point, I think, because then the argument becomes about the evidence, the medical evidence versus your point about disturbing sleep, disturbing productivity, whatever it may be. And I would focus personally, my bias is I'd focus more on the sleep because there's a lot of data to say disrupted sleep does lots of bad things. Cardiovascular disease, anxiety, depression, decreased work productivity, so on and so on. So just a few of those in terms of, kind of a bit of feedback concerning how you're presenting the acoustic data.
Thanks, man. Jim, you had your hand up.
Jim is muted.
Jim?
He's muted right now.
Yeah.
Okay, am I heard or no?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'm also part of Resilient Red Hook, and I have been speaking with the EDC, and they told me that they were discussing the options that they have with UPS, and they're in conversation with UPS, so which is very positive, and they are well aware of what we've been trying to push out of Red Hook to have the trucks come in from Hamilton Avenue, and then also have them go in through Pier 10, 11, 12, and out on King and Ferris Street. And this way they'll be right across the street from the UPS terminal, and that would also be beneficial to the other businesses where they're doing whatever they're doing down at that end of the neighborhood. So this way they would be able to avoid Van Brunt Street. In addition to that, I know that in the past, from the different access point of Court Street, instead of having the trucks come down Bay Street, I know that in the past there were talks with John Quadrosi to have him do a land swap and have Herkimer Street possibly be available, so that this way he would give up Herkimer Street for a piece of property in Red Hook, and this way that would avoid these trucks going by the parks on Bay Street as well. So, I mean, I really think that we need to come up with some kind of a comprehensive plan. We do have, a lot of information available. We are extremely limited in getting these trucks in and out of Red Hook. I mean, now, if you look at the Amazon site, if you do a little research during the course of the day, they could possibly be having, and they're not the busiest Amazon site, and they're only 300,000 and something square feet, as opposed to what they're putting next to IKEA at 640 Columbia. And they're doing 1 minute a truck. Every minute is one truck. So they're doing 60 trucks an hour. So, I mean, these are things that, like Alex is bringing to our attention. And, instead of like UPS is going to have 1.2 million square foot, and I don't know how many levels they're going to wind up putting there. But, I mean, these are concerns that we have. And it's not only the noise, it's a few years ago, we had buildings collapse. I'm on Richard Street, 1 block east of Van Brunt. And when I have tractor trailers coming by my place, my building is an old building. It's over 100 and something years old, and the whole building shakes as well. So I'm in an industrial area. I have a machine shop. I've been down there for 50 years. I mean, this is what we do. I'm constantly calling 311 to come and have them repair streets so that this way we don't have that problem. But, with Van Brunt Street, it's really not an industrial thoroughfare. It's more now commercial. There's the school kids are crossing. People are there on Saturdays, Sundays, walking across the streets. I mean, it's something that we really need to address. And I think there are options, but we have to spend the time to look into it. And like I said, I have been in talks with UPS and with personally and with Resilient Red Hook, and also with the EDC and with Port Authority.
Thanks, Jim. Any other questions? Somebody want to entertain a motion? Jerry, your point about, and Leroy, I think also to a degree, DOT's hesitancy, certainly there are some constraints facing DOT, but if there is the potential with EDC to possibly act on Conover Street, it might help if we were to underscore that by sending the letter that Resilient Red Hook is requesting. So I will leave it up to you guys.
I'm not saying we shouldn't send a letter. I'm just saying we have to be realistic. If Jim, and I like some of Jim's, I like a lot of his ideas, not some. If he's been able to have some conversations with UPS and EDC, EDC has always been a stumbling block on any of the improvements that we were thinking of making down here. It's not just on the Conover Street through the container port or not. So I'm not saying we shouldn't send a letter. I'm saying we have to be realistic. And maybe what we need to do as a community is all work together and come up with some alternatives. A letter saying take it off is fine. It should be followed rather quickly or relatively quickly by some suggestions and ideas similar to what Jim said, including some of his. That would be very helpful. I think that nobody has a claim on having all the good ideas. And if we have some of them, let them use it.
Leroy, Joanna Smith had a question about 53-foot trucks posted in the chat.
What was it?
Are all 53-foot rigs illegal on all New York City streets? Why isn't the 76th Precinct enforcing? How about DOT's freight team and NYPD highway responsibility?
Eric, I heard the 76 Precinct was involved in something else. Can you just repeat that? Was that for us?
Yes, Captain, just a question about truck enforcement of illegal 53-foot trailers.
Sure. Well, technically, 53-foot 18-wheelers, as they're commonly known, they have a very limited access route throughout New York City, and a truck route map was posted earlier. So these trucks are not allowed on the parkways. For example, Ocean Parkway down further south, they're not allowed to be on any commercial vehicles, not allowed to be on such roadways. Belt Parkway, they're allowed on designated truck routes. The problem that we'll have is once the truck is off that truck route, like Jerry pointed out earlier, the truck is legally allowed to take the most direct route to its destination. So that's where we'll encounter an issue as far as enforcement is concerned. Highway Patrol, they're subject matter experts as related to large commercial vehicles. But their responsibilities are mainly on the highway or when the truck is involved in an incident. If there's, God forbid, a serious collision, etc. So that would create a challenge for us as far as enforcement is concerned. I mean, enforcement generally is not an issue. We'll send our resources wherever they're needed, but in this case, that there may be an issue just to enforce just truck presence. But again, we'll be able to cross that bridge maybe limited if that truck route was amended and removed. But until then, if the truck is legally there, they're legally there. Obviously we could enforce any other violations, any traffic laws, but just the mere presence of a truck, if they're taking the shortest route to their final destination, that's legally they're allowed to do that.
Thank you.
Just so everyone knows, DOT, there's two things here. DOT does not have any enforcement in trucks. Any enforcement powers, it's all on the NYPD. We're also very shortly, hopefully before the end of the year, coming out with the study that we did in terms of trucks in general throughout New York City. It's a comprehensive thing that we did. So that hopefully will be out before the end of the year. I'm in agreement with Jerry in terms of, I don't know, how should I say this? I don't know if just saying, just take it off the truck route is what we as a community board want to say. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, is to get the trucks off Van Brunt Street. Don't get me wrong. I'm in agreement with that. As a Red Hook resident, I'm definitely in agreement with that. But I think it should say something much, much more than just take it off the truck route. I think we, as Jerry was saying, we need to come together. We need to have a comprehensive statement, and it being inclusive of those alternatives and how we can work with those different other state agencies to make this happen, and DOT as well. But just to say, just take it off the route as the letter, I'm not sure that's something that we should do right off the bat.
Anybody else? Committee members? So, Jerry, do you want to make a motion that expands on what?
Yeah, I'm going to try. I'll put it this way. I don't have the Resilient Red Hook motion in front of me.
I will see if I can.
No. I think Community Board 6 supports the motion as presented, and in addition, that we support we will be presenting within our letter, we will be presenting some alternatives. So I guess my motion is that we support the Red Hook Resilient Project's motion to delist Van Brunt Street as on the official New York City truck route map. We also will include in our letters some alternative ideas so that the trucks in the long run to the last mile facilities that are planned for the future will be able to get there to those facilities. We will present some alternatives, including the board-supported motion years ago of opening up Imlay Street through the container port. I should have said, for example, before that.
Okay.
So that's my motion.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion?
We do need a second.
Oh, we did. We need a second. Madeline, was that you? Okay, Madeline seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing, and Jim, I see you have your hand up, but once there's a motion on the floor, Got a big echo there. Once there's a motion on the floor, it's only committee members who can speak. All right.
Eric, I have a question.
Pauline?
I have a question, Eric.
Go ahead.
Yeah. What happens if we recommend that they map the street and it's done? What will happen to those trucks going through the rest of Red Hook? Did you hear me?
I did. Yep. And Paul, if you could mute, I'm getting echo from you. There seems to be a delay. Nope. Well, the trucks are going to be there regardless. I think the question is whether there's a better route for them than Van Brunt, which I think is the gist of the question here. And certainly the Port Authority facility on the west side seems to be a better alternative. So I think that's something we will add in the letter, as Jerry described in his motion, as a recommendation.
I just wanted to make sure that Jim's suggestions, especially over by on the east side, coming into Red Hook, make sure that I would like that added to it as well.
If that's a friendly amendment, I accept it. And I think that we will look at Eric, I think before the letter's written, we should look at the recording and pick up exactly what he said. I know it was in Herkimer Street. I wasn't listening that carefully, which is a good idea, Herkimer Street, and using that to get them away from the park and the new school. So I think just take a look at the recording and ask Mike to pick up the correct words that Jim used.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, given some of the challenges of working with a virtual meeting rather than in person.
Right.
Makes it a little trickier to write the resolutions. So,
although what's being built on Columbian Bay is going to preclude all of this, because the trucks are going to have to come down Bay anyway.
Just an aside for any of you who are interested, the one that's being built right next to IKEA, that last mile warehouse, does have on the web a brochure. You can take a look at at what this thing is going to look like. It's humongous. It's called 640 Columbia Street. Take a look and try.
all right. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we will go ahead with a vote then. I guess since some folks are muted, if you could just use the raise hand function or physically raise your hand if your screen is active. Some folks don't have video on. But in any case, so if all folks in favor of the motion would please raise your hand. Please raise your hand and hold them up.
I'm in favor. I can't raise my hand, but I'm in favor.
Thanks, Pauline. All right, so I have Madeline, Jerry, Pauline, so I have Madeline, Jerry, Pauline, Joanne, Joanne. Okay. Any committee member opposed? Any committee member opposed? Van, I see your hand. Is that opposed? Van, I see your
sorry.
hand. Is that opposed?
I couldn't get it. I couldn't take it down. I couldn't take it down.
Okay. So, and then Leroy, are you abstaining? And then Leroy, are you abstaining?
Yes. I'm abstaining. Yes.
Okay. So it seems unanimous with one abstention. So it seems unanimous with one abstention.
Yeah, could you see the original motion at some point, or just like put the language in the chat or something so I can write it down in the minutes?
Yeah, Evan, I think we'll just add it after the fact. So
thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks very much. Alex, thank you for joining us. Feel free to stick around for the rest of the meeting if you'd like. Leroy, I think, is it you or Emily who's going to present the next portion?
Emily is.
Okay. Emily, welcome.
Hi, I've attended a Transportation Committee meeting all the way back in March, and so I haven't seen any of you guys since then. But thanks for having me here. I'm here with, first I'll be talking about 69 Van Dyke Street and what we suggest for that site. So I have Yuri, he's an engineer from Key Civil Engineering. He has, I don't know if Mike sent you the drawings beforehand. He asked for it right before the meeting.
He did not send it, no.
All right. I think if you make me a host or Yuri a host, we can pull that up to show you what we're talking about.
Okay. It shows all panelists should be able to share screen.
Okay, hello, this is Yuri from Key Civil Engineering, and I'll share the screen of the drawing that we prepared.
Okay.
And so what we are here coming to you today is we are presenting to you informationally what will be happening on this site in regards to Beard Street. So DOT does support the applicants, being Civil Engineering, request to expand their curb cuts on the Beard Street side of their site. And in order to do that, in order to facilitate these larger vehicles that they have coming in and out of the site, they would need these expanded curb cuts. And so DOT, in order for the safety and ease of in and out of the site, we support their application. But in order to do that, there is going to be removal of parking along Beard Street. And then Yuri, you can sort of talk about your site.
All right, so this site is going to be Verizon maintenance facility, so parking of all their trucks, as well as having a truck bring in the poles. So if you look here, we have a schematic showing the poles on a trailer carried by a truck. So it'll be a 24-hour open facility that will be for emergency responses, and we are having the trucks with the poles come down Beard Street, enter into the site, go through the site, drop off or pick up the poles here, these pole cribs that we have, and then it would leave the site through this 60-foot wide curb cut and go down Beard Street again. We are, based on the truck movement with the poles, we need to remove on-street parking, basically here, along Beard Street, and then just that's about it. Yeah, it'll be one-way move into the lot with the big truck at this 48-foot wide curb cut, and one-way out. The curb cuts will be used for the smaller trucks. Will be used as a two-way to get in and out. There's also a curb cut on the Dyke Street, and that will be used for the smaller trucks. A 30-foot wide curb cut there.
Yeah, so pretty much we're here to sort of, present to you that information that there will be removal of parking in order to facilitate the access to this site.
And how many parking spaces are you talking about?
So we have about 65 feet here, and then we have about 97 feet here. So approximately 160 feet of street frontage that will be removed.
And what's the current regulation there?
The current is no parking Tuesday and Friday, midnight to 3 a.m.
And Emily, does DOT have any figures on parking utilization there? I mean, if I am recalling that stretch, that doesn't seem to get a lot of, it's not really near anything, right?
No, it's not near any, it's by the water. If you can pull up the drawing with the base map, I think that would be contextualize it a little bit better for everybody. Yeah.
Right, so yeah, the parking will be in this stretch of street.
Questions from the committee? Jerry?
Couple things. Did you do as far as parking utilization during the day? The showcase or refrigeration company that's there between Richards and Van Brunt, M. Freed, I think it is. That street is currently parked during the working day constantly. It's parked in. It's hard to find a spot. However, so did you do any outreach to those people to let them know that the place where they park from Van Brunt down to Richards they will be losing their spots? Because
DOT
you
has
also have a small I think it's called Sky Boom, whose workers park there. They are a crane company. Has anybody done any kind of an outreach to these folks from the applicant or Verizon or?
No, we didn't do any outreach to them.
Okay. And is this lot going to be entirely for Verizon trucks?
Correct. Yep. There's also an office and / dispatch
Well,
building.
the office isn't there yet. The only thing that's
No.
there is the near the proposed building, towards the Beard Street side, you have a transformer and other electrical equipment sitting 5-6 feet above the ground. So my question is, if this is for all trucks and emergency vehicles, why are there handicap spots inside so designated with signs?
So based on the zoning code, the outdoor storage of utility vehicles requires parking spaces. And based on the requirement of parking spaces, we need to provide handicap spaces as well.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't know that.
And also for the office, which will be built after,
Phasing the project.
yeah, based on the base.
Okay. So, and I see reading this, you have applied to DOB for the building, correct? Yep, I see it there. Okay.
Correct.
I'm just concerned about what those two thank you, sir. I'm just concerned about what we're going to do with those businesses between Richards and Van Brunt. M-Free, it's either refrigeration or store or display cases in stores. They park there between the bus stop, which is near Van Brunt Street, and Richard Street. That during the day is parked in entirely with both. Well, actually, only on one side. One side, both sides. One side is already no parking anytime. The north side is no parking anytime. It's the south side where they park. So other than that, I mean, you know, I know that utility companies are considered unique in both state and city regulations. They're considered their vehicles are emergency vehicles. So I'm not against the curb cuts. I'm just hoping that somebody did some outreach to these folks so they know what's happening before waking up one day. And suffice it to say, there are no signs that even talk about the current regulations because they somehow have a tendency to disappear whenever DOT puts them in. So I'm just worried that that's going to happen when these signs are put in. But that has nothing to do with the application.
That's something that can be easily repaired.
Other questions from the committee or from the public?
So, okay. Raise your hand.
I don't see, Madeline? You would unmute, there you go.
Okay, Eric. It's just like one more thing with more traffic, truck traffic coming down Van Brunt Street. I mean, this is getting absolutely crazy. This is just additional, you know, to what we were just talking about.
Yeah, and certainly not the last or the...
No, I'm afraid not. I mean, I think the committee's got to start paying a little more attention to what the heck's going on in Red Hook.
But I do think that we are going to need a real comprehensive look at it from
Yeah.
and from Department of Buildings. You know, I understand what these projects are as of right, but somebody needs to look at them in totality and not as individual silos.
Yeah, I know. Okay, that's about all I have to say right now.
Eric, unless there's some other comments, I'm willing to make a motion to recommend.
I don't see any other hands up, Jerry, so why don't you go?
I don't see any hands, but you see more than I do. Recommend approval of the application for the curb cut for the parking lot on Beard between Richards and, what the heck is that, Lower Street again? Between
Dwight.
Richards and Dwight. The expanded curb cut on Beard Street. Recommend approval.
Before somebody seconds that, Joanne Brown has her hand up.
Okay.
Joanne, go
No,
ahead.
no. I know. Oh no, I was just wanted to ask a question. But when they be doing all this shit trafficking, rather with the with these 18 wheelers and everything, are they going to be like covering up those 18 wheelers when they be going through Red Hook, because they already have enough asthma and all the pollution and stuff that's going on there already now, and then between the regular traffic, the bicycles, and those their little scooters. I think you call them scooters. I'm not sure.
Yep.
But them two. But then who is going to be rather monitoring? Watching it. I don't see a bike sign. Telling the road when to stop and go. Because the bikes are just going on. But then sometimes the trucks don't even see them. So, is there any way that they can really be more responsible because of the pollution, the asthmatic rate, and and everything else that's going on, including this here cobalt stuff that's up in the air as well too? I'm just asking a question.
Yep. No, I think it's a very good point, and it gets back to the earlier discussion about a need for a comprehensive approach to all that's going on in Red Hook. So while not necessarily a point for this particular motion, I think it's something that we will visit with the board office and pursue with the Department of Transportation and city planning. So thanks for that.
Okay, because I'm learning how to work. I'm learning how to work this device here. Okay.
We're all doing that, believe me. So, thank you.
Oh, well, okay, then. Thank you very much.
So, Jerry, were you complete in your motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do I have a second? Madeline, any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, I will call the question then. All in favor of Jerry's motion to support the application, please say aye or raise a hand, or any opposed? Any abstentions? Leroy? All right, I think so. It was unanimous with Leroy abstaining. If I mistook your vote somehow, please just let me know. We can always patch this up in the minutes. But as far as I am concerned, the motion is passed. Thanks, Emily and Yuri, for the presentation.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Yuri. Mike also asked me to come tonight to give an update on open streets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any specific questions that you have, or should I?
Not from me in particular. If you want to just give us a little overview on what's going on, and then if people have questions.
Yeah. So in terms of open streets, we're currently in the stage of evaluating all the open streets that we had opened from March onward. And we would love to hear feedback on what is working and what is not working. And that's something that you can email me, and I'll redirect those comments to the appropriate unit. Sorry. But since then, since the first iteration of Open Streets, we've had more programs. It went from Open Streets to Open Streets Restaurants to Open Streets Learning, and the newest iteration now is Open Storefronts, which ground level retail stores are able to sell their wares and their goods on the sidewalk, as long as they maintain 8-foot clearance and a 5-foot maximum height of their display. So that's pretty much all that's going on in terms of Open Streets. If you have any specific questions on any specific Open Streets that you would like me to answer, I'd be happy to.
Jerry?
It's not a question, it's a comment. We have a number of residential streets off Court in Carroll Gardens that were open streets. There's one in Red Hook, that Reed Street between Conover and Van Brunt. It's an open street for the restaurants, Brooklyn Crab and Hometown Barbecue.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is that the barriers are there and then they are broken. It seems that either the motorists or the delivery, in some cases on Reed Street, I know it's delivery trucks. It seems like that it's open season on barriers when you put them on the open streets. And I'm wondering, instead of using police barriers and plastic barriers, if something more resilient, sort of like what the police department uses when they set up those aluminum barriers for demonstrations. I'm not sure that that's possible, but something that will actually let these streets function as to what they've been programmed for.
Yeah.
So it's not really a question. It's more of a, if the program's going to succeed, it has to be that cars can't go down the streets. I know, for instance, that the street between Court and Henry is supposed to be an open street, and the barriers are not there. They're not even on the corner, crushed. They're no longer there, and it can't function. Now, I don't know if the people on that block care. I don't know who destroyed the barriers. Maybe they did themselves. But it seems to me that if the program is going to succeed, we have to find a way to keep those barriers in place and the streets actually closed.
Yeah. And so that's a complaint that we've heard across the city. Unfortunately, those barriers are not under the jurisdiction of DOT. Those come from NYPD. And we have seen many of the barriers that were, used being destroyed. I've seen it all. But what makes it, more successful is having a partner, a community organization or a partner in, holding responsibility of that street. We've seen streets like those have a higher success rate than those that were to be managed by the local precincts.
Jerry, if I could chime in, just because I'll speak for you a little bit, Captain. Unfortunately, it's a matter of resources. The NYPD does not have enough resources to provide the barriers that you're talking about throughout the city. So it's just a matter of resources in terms of the specific barriers. Emily is 100% correct. It is great when we have a partner to be able to open and close the street. And we would need, especially at Reed Street, we would need the partner to notify us when those barriers are damaged so we can work with our partners at the NYPD, the barrier unit, to replace those particular barriers. Fortunately, as you may know, and some may not, cars can go down open streets. So you can't prevent them completely, So that the barriers have to be able to be moved and put back. And that's when a lot of them get broken, because if I'm a delivery car driver, I don't feel like getting out my truck to move the barrier so I can drive down. So I'll try to squeeze past it. And unfortunately, that don't always work. So I wind up running over the barrier. So a lot of times that's how barriers get broken. But we would need our partners to let us know to see if we can get the barrier unit to replace those barriers at those particular locations.
Leroy, thank you for that. And I'll also piggyback on the use of barriers. So the police department has two types of barriers. The barriers that we're talking about are the big blue wooden barriers, and we have the metallic barriers that link together that we use for parades and other functions. The barriers are distributed from the barrier section, which is located in Queens. Unfortunately, these wooden barriers that we're discussing, they were not designed to be used for long-term functions like open streets. Typically, I'll give you an example. Is today at the climate change rally, barriers set up as to be visible to prevent any vehicular traffic from entering the event, and the police officers usually in the past was assigned to this location or intersection to maintain that barrier. Now with the open streets, the barriers are set up and pretty much essentially they're loaned out to that area, and they're not manned, and they're at those locations for a prolonged time period. They do break. Some of them are old. Like you mentioned, they may get hit by a car, they get moved out of the way, so they take a lot of abuse. So if luckily Reed Street is it's not a very heavily trafficked area, so that's a positive. If anybody does encounter barriers that are broken, need to be replaced, they could let a police officer call the precinct main line, and we could probably take care of that.
I guess in light of the conversation, I would say that streets like Fourth Street, Fourth Place, Second Place, and Carroll Gardens, which are purely residential, and you do not have a partner to put the barriers back and forth and so on, maybe something like those little tiny streets that are literally 1 lane wide are not a good candidate for open streets, whereas some commercial streets are a better candidate. And maybe at some point DOT should evaluate the program and fine tune it a little bit. I think it's a good program, but maybe the streets that were originally picked because of COVID and the haste and so on are not the best streets. And
yeah, we are in complete agreement with you, Jerry. I think this point now is the point where DOT is really analyzing everything as a whole and looking at it, in a different light. And from that, we've learned what works and what doesn't. And the more feedback we get from the community, the easier it is for us to kind of guide what is wanted versus what can sort of be cut out eventually.
okay, thank you. I mean, it's good to hear, since I know from the residents on those blocks, initially they had no input into the decision. Mm-hmm. And some of the residents were not happy, but the point is there may be better blocks in that area. There may be additional blocks that would function better around some of the schools. PS 32, 29, there are a lot of places where it might be better for that to function, around PS 15 in Red Hook, PS 27 in Red Hook. So I'm just saying that if what you say is true, it's being reevaluated, that's great to hear. And I'm going to mute myself at this point. That's it.
Well, Eric, I think what could happen if being in contact with the board office, if there are specific locations throughout CB6 that they're getting constant complaints about, then a list should be generated and that should be sent to Emily. And then we could look at those. We definitely are out there reevaluating, because I myself, and I know Emily has, we've gone out throughout CB6 and spent, probably 20 minutes to 30 minutes at particular open streets to see if they're being utilized and how they're being utilized. And they're putting together a report on that as we speak. But I would say if there have been specific locations that the board is getting complaints about, a list should be generated and sent to Emily.
Great. Anybody else have questions about current open streets or open streets you'd like to see?
Hi, John Heston here. Are there any plans to expand open streets to additional streets? Is there a way to nominate new streets?
So for the current iteration of Open Streets, no, right now we're not taking any new recommendations or requests. But what we are looking at now is on Open Streets Learning, which is providing open streets for schools. Those are being evaluated for the children's safety. Though I believe that program only is until November 30th.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, Emily, thank you very much for the update. We appreciate it. And Leroy, we will definitely take that up with the board office and let people know that they can funnel concerns or requests through the board. We'll make sure we communicate those to you guys.
Yeah, my email is in the chat too, so
I saw that. Thank you.
Please email me about anything in the board.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everybody for bearing with my first time trying to run a Zoom meeting for the board. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody making the time for it. I believe we will be meeting next month as well, but we'll send that information around. Probably the third Thursday, our regular monthly meeting. If you want to just note that on your calendar, and we'll confirm it as soon as we can. Okay.
Thank you, Eric. You did a great job.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, Eric.
Good night, everyone. Stay safe.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Eric, I'm glad
Stay safe.
I
Good
don't have.
night.
Good night, everybody.
I don't have. Good night, everybody.